Hi, my name's Danny, and I'm an alcoholic. AA ought never be organized. We never have to worry about that one, do we? How's everybody doing? Yeah? Okay. I love the two chairs right there, and I want to speak like that. I spent most of my drinking career in that position. Face up and face down. I like that. You've spawned an idea for me for my home group, which is a book study. Hey, did I mention I'm an alcoholic? No gum chewing at the podium. Gum out of the mouth. No profanity, no gum chewing. Respect the podium. I was taught that a long time ago. Doesn't matter who's up here, whoever's up here, you get in line, you go thank them. You're not thanking them, you're thanking the podium. Respecting the podium. By the way, second edition of the Big Book. I love that. I was born during that period. So I just recently, for my birthday, got a 13th printing of the second edition. Same year I was born. So may not excite you, but it means a lot to me. So I don't really have a canned pitch. I just kind of let God be in charge, you know. So first I'd like to start by thanking Jeff, who's obviously drank his fair share of caffeine today. Thank you for having me up here, Jeff. Thank you for the wonderful barbecue. Good thing I had dental floss in my car. I'd like to thank this table right here for reaching out and giving me the fellowship and making me feel at home. You just have to sit here and just say hello and how's it going and listen, and in 5 minutes you'll know, boy, am I in the right place. You know, I just feel at home wherever I go in Alcoholics Anonymous. Last night I was speaking in Oxnard at Serenity by the Sea at the Performing Arts Center in Oxnard, and I was sleeping next to a dock full of boats at a marina, and now here I am. I'm not even sure where I am. I can tell there's some kind of Western theme going on. I picked up on that. I used to live in Texas, so I feel cool about that too. Anyway, can I, just for me, can I see the hands of the people in their first year of sobriety? Excellent. You're who I came to talk to. The rest of you can listen in if you'd like. Okay, 3 hours and 7 minutes in the car without stopping. Bam. Boy, did I have to pee when I got here, man. So, anyway, I did not start drinking till I was about 12. I held out for as long as I could. And boy, I needed a drink by the time I had a couple of tools for living before I took a drink. My first tool for living was out. Have you ever heard of a movie called The Way, Way Back? Has anybody ever heard of that movie? It's about a station wagon. And when I was a kid, we had a Rambler Ambassador station wagon. And the very back seat in our station wagon faced this way. Perfect. It was all I ever wanted. All I ever wanted was out. Out of the car, out of the family, out of my room, out of this relationship, away from you. I do not know how to do this thing, man. Obviously, I have landed on the wrong planet. I'm wearing the wrong Earth suit. I'm completely uncomfortable. I don't know how to chit-chat. It always goes wrong. I end up making people very unhappy when I'm near them. And so all I wanted was out. So that was my first tool for living, out. Run. And my second tool for living was violence. So I am a survivor of, I'm an abused child. Belt buckles, extension cords, fists, and I was a scapegoat. Whatever was happening when something went wrong, it was always my fault. And before I ever took a drink, I already knew that I was bad, that I was nothing, that I was never going to be nothing, that I was a loser, that I didn't even have potential, and nobody really wanted me around. So when that drink came around, boy, was I happy. My first drink was Boone's Farm strawberry wine. It usually gets a little more of a cheer than that. No, as my sponsor would say, no grapes involved. And the bottle, I'm like 12 years old. I'm an Air Force brat, so, okay, I'll back up a little bit. So I was born in Columbus, Ohio, and before that I was 11. I already lived in D.C., Florida, Japan, D.C., Ohio again. Like, I was moving all over the place. It's really good for when you're a kid that, now they call these kids kids from dysfunctional families who are seeking negative attention. They had another name for that when I was a kid. It wasn't clinical. And it was perfect, when when you're the person. How many people here are the kid that no one was allowed to play with in your neighborhood? Come on, you know what I mean? It's perfect and being an Air Force brat was perfect for that, because by the time everyone was mad at you, it was time to leave and go. You get to shake the Etch-a-Sketch and start over again, right? So I think I was living in Washington, D.C. So my father was a colonel in the Air Force. He was a navigator before. So, he did Da Nang in Vietnam, and we lived in Japan. And so he would be home a week and gone 3 months on temporary duty, while my mother would raise 3 boys by herself. And all I really remember is about my little childhood is that, being beaten a lot. I have a hard time remembering my childhood because I pushed it out of my memory so much. But I do remember that there was nothing that looked anything like Leave It to Beaver or Father Knows Best or Ozzie and Harriet going on in my house. There was no blatant displays of affection. The things around my house were said like, take it like a man. Don't quit your crying, or I'll give you something to cry about. Don't show your feelings here. Nobody really, and I had to address my mother as ma'am and my father as sir. So it was a drag. It was a drag. I know, I needed a drink, right? Check, testing. Is it good? Loud and clear. Last night I had an interpreter. I love when I have an interpreter. I'll throw words in that have nothing to do with my pitch just to see. Last night I threw in alligator. Alligator. The difference between alligator and crocodile is they make an A while they do this and a C for crocodile. See, you learn. I don't know. Hey. Okay, so anyway, so I'm 12 years old. I'm living in Washington, so we moved around a lot, and so we're living. I think we were stationed at the Pentagon, and I'm 12, and I'm behind. I'm not going to school. I'm now skipping school, and I'm hanging out with the losers. The people with the worst habits are the people that appeal to me, and I don't want to be home. Every time I go home, I get hit, so I just go out the window and I run away. And finally, somebody hands me a drink, and it was that bottle of Boone's Farm strawberry wine, and it was as big as me. I remember I'm not that I'm really tall now, but I was really little when I was. If you were supposed to be this tall, I was this tall, and they handed me this bottle like a Magnum. It felt like a Magnum, right? And I remember I didn't give it back. Right? And when I drank it, the first thing I felt that burning, you're 11, 12 years old, man. It's like drinking gasoline, right? And it was just burning. And then that thing happened. It happened. That thing that makes me bodily and mentally different from my fellow. It changed my perception of reality. The people that I was drinking with, they couldn't wait to hear the next magical thing out of my mouth, which happened to be vomit. I remember that it was Boone's Farm strawberry wine because I remember what it tasted like coming back up. And I remember I drank that whole bottle, and I just remember I was throwing up like only we throw up. You know when you're throwing up and you expect to see your socks come out, right? And I remember while I'm throwing up, I'm thinking, if this doesn't kill me, I'm doing this again. And our book, and I'll get to our book later. And if you're new, do we have a big book? This is the big book. Now that's a big book. I was speaking at a convention one time. Usually I like to have a book with me, right, when I talk. And I go, is there a big book in the house? And somebody brought me that little pocket thing. And there was this whole row of people from Detox. And I'm up there going, this is the big book. And it's a little tiny book. And they're like, what? Anyway. Yeah. So I was puking and I just remember, as our book talks about, like on the first page of chapter 3, more about alcoholism, right? On page 30, where the first time you'll hear the steps talked about, where it says the first step in recovery is conceding to your innermost self. It says that we lost the ability we are a group of people who lost the ability to control and enjoy our drinking. I never tried to control my drinking. I lost the ability to control my drinking that day. I could never, ever get enough. In the book it says, and oblivion. That was the goal. Oblivion. I wished I blacked out every time. That's what we're doing here. I got to get enough of this in here to get to zero, to kill the fear. That one emotion that runs everything in my life, fear, comes out in a lot of different ways. Usually for me, it comes out in anger. That's what I was taught, right? So anyway, there was humble beginnings for me, and I respect the podiums, Alcoholics Anonymous. I respect our singleness of purpose, but I want to tell you there were some other things involved in my drinking career and my using career, and I'm a little bit older, and the next thing somebody handed me a joint, said, would you like to smoke this marijuana? And I said, yes, I would. Had no idea what it was, and I'm an older guy, and most of us in here, when we smoked weed, there was seeds in it. You had to clean the seeds out, right? They don't have weed like that now. They have this rocket fuel stuff, It's like, and the first joint I smoked, it had a seed in it, and it popped and stuck to my head and just burned my head. The same day, I'm throwing up, puking strawberry stuff. My skull's on fire, man, and I'm like, I have arrived. Just like Bill said, I have arrived. I saw myself running vast company, like it was nuts. So I just wondered if this light works. It doesn't. Okay, but there's a lot of stuff up here. I'm totally ADHD, man. I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm like, and I'm OCD. Most of us are OCD. I like OCD, right? Yeah, get a lot of stuff done. Everything's got to be all neat. My remote controls are in ascending order on the living room table. I know. Just get to the story, dude. I know. Just get to it. Don't worry. You'll get it. Okay. So, see, there's a circle and a triangle for you guys in your first year. And I know most of you know this. That right there, we didn't invent that. That circle and that triangle. Is there one on the podium, too? So that's an ancient symbol. It means mind, body, and spirit. And that circle means therein lies the whole human being, seeking the balance that we've always needed. So in 1955, we adopted the symbol. It's a nice word for stealing, right? I adopted someone's car once. So at that big 55 International Convention, it's where they popped that sucker out. Am I right? Yes. I like when I respect the old timers in AA. I got to tell you, I have so much respect in my heart and my soul for the people that came before me that made it possible for me to be here and alive. I couldn't begin to tell you. I could use my whole hour to tell you how much I love you and care about you, and eternally will try to carry this message. Not my message, that message. The one that's in the 164 pages. So mind, body, and spirit. So we changed it to unity, recovery, and service, right? So the first side of the triangle is unity. Unity is the body. I bring it to a meeting. I can't stay sober, but we seem to be able to, right? So here's my point. Maybe you're new, and maybe you didn't drink gin. Maybe you weren't a stockbroker. Maybe you've never been to New York. You probably have a beast in your head that's looking for the differences instead of the similarities. Maybe you just did Oxycontin. Maybe you're a tweaker. Maybe you only smoked weed. Maybe you like diazepams. Maybe you like Klonopin or Valium. Maybe you shot heroin. Maybe you like taking everything apart that wasn't broken, right? But what I'm getting to is that it's all the same thing. It's all the same thing. It's all anti-Danny medication. To me, In the doctor's opinion, it says, it appears if I'm alcoholic that I had to abstain from alcohol in all its forms. Now, my sponsor let me have my experience with the big book. Let me have my experience with the big book. Now, I'm sure when they wrote that, they probably meant moonshine, whiskey, aftershave, beer, alcohol in all its forms. But today, this is 2016, and people are dying. And today, what I think that means to me is alcohol in all its forms. Snortable alcohol. Injectable alcohol, smokable alcohol, pill form alcohol. It's all made to get me out of right here, right now. So if you're new and you're not identifying to the things in the big book, take another look. Take another look and try to identify with things. I mean, in Bill's story, I mean, come on, man. He loses a job because he gets in a fight with a taxi cab driver. He convinces his wife. He's such a manipulator that he convinces his wife to jump into a sidecar next to a motorcycle and drive across the states with nothing but a bunch of financial books. That guy's a hustler, man. I can identify with everything about Bill's story, and I need to identify. I need to find my way in because the beast wants me out of here. The beast wants me to look at you and go, I have nothing in common with you. I don't need to be here. Off to the liquor store. Off to the dope man. No, I need to find my way in, and it's our job. It's my job as a member of Alcoholics Anonymous to instill the words in your head, if you're new, me too. Me too. So I don't care who you are. You could be a 400-pound lesbian mud wrestler, and I can identify with you. I don't care who you are. Because I no longer look at the outside. Man, if you're new, there are people in here, man, that you would not believe. Talk to her for a while. She'll tell you stuff. She told me some stories, and you look at her and you're like, really? Really? She started our conversation with, when I was in jail, they didn't do strip search. And there are people sitting in this room that you would never think. I mean, we clean up real good. But if you could see us all 3 days before we came to Alcoholics Anonymous, man, oh man, oh man. And see, the good news is that you're sitting in a room, if you're new, you're sitting in a room full of people that have been through everything that you can possibly imagine. From cancer to losing their children to losing their family and every adversity there is, and we've done it without taking a drink. And so can you. And that's why I came here, to tell you that. So can you. So, meanwhile, about 13, 14, 15 years old, I got into those pills, the ones that Bill and Bob talk about when you started drinking with heavy sedatives. I liked Placidil, and I liked Nebutol, and I liked Seconal, and I liked just being out. And when I was about 14, 15 years old, they called my father and said, we have your son Danny. He was arrested for selling Seconal in school, and my father said, we don't have a son named Danny. So I went to a reform school, and that's where I really learned how to be bad. And while I was in there, I learned how to make Pruno. I learned how to make alcohol. It was really cool. All you need is some bread and some fruit and some time. And I learned how to tattoo on myself. Thank God I covered them all up. That's what this arm is. I usually never get to speak. I asked Jeff. I always wear a suit and tie. Jeff, what would you like me to wear? He said, wear whatever you feel comfortable. And so I didn't wear my cheetah thong. That's a joke. I wore this instead. Thank you for laughing. And so I jumped on the opportunity to maybe be a little more casual with you here because I was, but know that the respect is here. Okay? Check. Hey, there's the circle and triangle right there. It looks like a dinner bell. Come and get it. Unity, recovery, and service. Ding, ding, ding. All right. Okay. So there I am. I'm in reform school, and I get out of reform school, and it's just madness. The beatings are getting really bad. Now I start challenging my father to fights, and I'm not taking it anymore. I decided one time during an ass whooping, I'm never going to let a human being see me cry again. Never. Ever, ever. Something broke in me one day. Something just broke. I had no more use for you. The people that loved me the most hated me. That's how I felt. I'm a feelings person. The facts may be one thing, but if it feels bad, it's bad. And so when I was in Texas, we moved to Texas. My father became the head of the Inspector General's office for the Air Force. And I was running the streets and got in some big boy trouble running around with these losers and went to big boy jail. And when I got out, my family moved to the Philippines, and I didn't know a single soul. And there I was in San Antonio, Texas, with absolutely no anchors of any kind, no moral compass whatsoever, on the streets being raised by wolves. And I had one thing going for, I'm a musician, I had one thing going for me, I could play the drums. And I was going to be, I had dreams, you know? I don't know about you guys, but I had dreams. My dream wasn't to end up in a gutter or in a doorway. My dream wasn't to end up in treatment. My dream wasn't to have a distended liver. But all those things happened to me. My dream was I was going to be something. I was going to be this phenomenal drummer. I was going to be John Bonham. And so I had an opportunity. Are there any liars in the room? Come on. I love it. His hand went straight up. I used to lie so much, I have fond memories of things that never happened to me. Never. You know what I mean? You're just telling a story. You're going, this might be complete bull hockey, man, but it's a good story, so I'm going to tell you. So the truth is, I had this great audition to play drums for Rod Stewart. Never made it to the audition. But I told so many people that I drummed for Rod Stewart. Still, to this day, when Hot Legs comes on the radio, I'll admire my drumming. I'm like, oh, yeah. Where it talks about in the big book where we can't, distinguish the false from reality, I couldn't. There was for a while I was like, did I play drums for Rod Stewart? I'm going to have to meet Rod Stewart and ask him, hey, did I ever play drums for you? Yeah. I would even, did anybody ever have different accents in different bars? Oh, I did that. Oh, yeah, because I'm Irish, I used to pretend and convince them just to get a drink. If I could convince the Irish pub that I was from Ireland, well, I could get a pint. I'll be I'll be whatever you want. I'm a people pleaser, man. I can't afford I can't stand you, but I can't afford for you not to love me. You know our story. 100 people in a room, 99 love you and one don't like you. What is wrong with you? What can I do to make you love me? Just tell me. Who do I need to be? Right? We know. Where was I? Oh, so I came out to California with my drums, and I never made it to the audition. You know how we are. We build our whole life. We work and work and work for that one moment. We pick that exact moment to either ruin it or just never make it to there. So my drums went to the pawn shop, and I really learned how to drink. I met a woman in, this is like 79, 80, 81. I met a woman that could teach me how to drink 2/5 of Gilby's gin before breakfast. But my drink, by the way, had become Southern Comfort. Improperly named. No one was ever comfortable when I drank Southern Comfort. And the only reason I picked it wasn't like, I don't know, some people, maybe the normal person picks their drink because, no, yes. I picked it because it was half round fifth, would fit in my boot to get in the concert in Texas. This is my drink. Easy to take with me. And then I came out and I learned about gin, and I learned if you ate just the right amount of stuff, you could keep it down but not ruin the buzz, right? Because already at 22 years old, I was having a hard time. I was already reaching that jumping off place. It was already not working for me. The voices were not going away. The I hate myself voice, why don't you kill yourself voice, the world would be better without you here voice would not get drunk anymore already with 2/5 and whatever pills and anything else I could put in me. So we got married. It was like a Quentin Tarantino movie. And unfortunately, when I was not home, she was on the back of a Harley Davidson and was killed by a drunk driver in 1985. And that period of my life was just absolutely madness. And I'll back up a little bit. Very first time, now all this time, I had never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. I think I maybe heard a blurb about it for a second on the Days of Wine and Roses when I was watching that movie, if it was in there, I think. But no one, in all the psychiatrists that I sat in front of, and all the places, people, they would ask us the same question a lot. Everyone in this room has heard this. What is wrong with you? And I'm like, you're the one with the degrees on the wall. Aren't you supposed to be telling me what's wrong with me? And they would always take it back to the beatings and all that stuff. No one ever mentioned the amounts of alcohol and drugs that I was filling my body up with. No one ever said a word about that. And I had been in many a mental institution by then. I had been to a lot of psychiatrists who told me I would never have the capacity to love or receive love. And you know what I told them? You're right. You're right. And when you tell somebody that they're never going to be anything, I don't know about you, but I just live to prove them that you're right. You're right. I deserve this. Who cares? And that's how I live my life. I live my life like this is the only day, this day, and all we're going to do is fill this body up with as much stuff as we can to get out of right here, right now, and who cares? And don't get in my way. If you don't have drugs, alcohol, sex, or money, well, sex wasn't really a big part of the deal anymore. That'll ruin your buzz. And if you don't know somebody that'll get me one of those, get out of the way. I have no use for you. So in 1982, I was living in Civic Center Park in San Francisco. I was 22 years old, and I looked like I was about 60. I had holes in all of my front teeth had holes in them. I had mats in my hair, and I wasn't a Rastafarian. And I was wearing everything I owned, and I was covered in piss. And I became a wino again. I ended up full circle back where I started when I was 11 or 12 with that Boone's Farm. Now the best thing I could do to get drunk was MD 2020 or Night Drain, 79 cents for a bottle, not a grape in it, right? Or I would go to the bar. They used to let people smoke in bars in California in the 80s. And I would go to the bar, and you know where the gold railing is in the bar? That's where we know in a full bar to go get service. Also, that's where, did you know that there are people that don't finish their drink? Can you believe that? I don't know about you. It doesn't matter how long you're sober. Don't you notice when you're with a normie that they're not finishing their drink? Like, hey, come on. Let's get. That drink has been sitting there too long. Let's drink that thing. That's alcohol abuse right there. That poor drink. Drink that damn drink. And there are people that not only will not finish their drink, they'll throw a cigarette butt in it. I know. And so, but that was good for me. So what I would do, here I am shuffling around wearing everything I owned. And to get me a buzz, the best thing I could do, if I couldn't, because I barely had the energy to try to steal something to take it to the dope man. So I would either run into a liquor store and steal. I would wait for the liquor store dude to turn his back. And, they kept that Night Train right there on the shelf in the front. Didn't need any refrigeration. It just sat there like Tabasco sauce, right? And I would wait, time it like a little kid getting into, that jump rope? You're like, the fastest I could move, man, to get that little bottle, Or I would go to the bar and I would take 2 big Tupperware plastic containers, right? And I would go to the brass rings. And if you go there at last call, she will bring all the unfinished drinks right to you. It's like heaven. She just brings them all there. And then when she goes out, you wait until her second to the last trip because she brought them all there. And when she goes way far away, you just take them. And then you go out back. I would go out to the back of the bar. And then I would take the empty one, put it underneath my shirt, and strain the cigarette butts out of them. Oh, look at you. Oh. Isn't that funny? Now, some people call that pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I call that a Long Island tea. Isn't it funny how we are? There are people here, I guarantee you, that have snorted stuff off the toilet of a bathroom. But when we get sober, we're like, is that filtered water? Oh, what? Is that gluten-free? What are you talking about? You used to drink turpentine. Jesus. How many people here have crawled through the carpet and smoked or snorted things that looked like it could have been something? There you go, right? I sponsor a guy that shot a piece of bagel. He thought it was something else. It's amazing that any lengths. Isn't it crazy the things we would do? I'm sponsoring this guy, man. We went through his 9th step. I'll go back to there, but we were going through his 9th step. We're planning his plan of attack of the amends that he can afford to do now and the ones he can do now and the ones he should not do yet because they're not ready. And so we're looking at it, and we're looking at, what's this $4,000 thing you got here? What's that? Plasma $4,000. Oh, that's a 70-inch plasma screen I stole. And then he began to brag how he went up on the 9th floor and stole this humongous plasma TV, tied sheets around it, and got down the fire escape with one arm without putting a scratch on it. But when I asked him to go 2 miles to go to a meeting, dude. You know, the dudes and the bros start coming out. I mean, come on, man. Any lengths. Come on, bro. So yeah, that's what I was doing in San Francisco, man. I was just any way that I could get anything. You could give me anything and tell me it would change how I felt, and I would take it. And it didn't matter. And there I was, man, a little old man at 22 with no anchors in the world at all, not connected to a single human being on the planet, no guide, no moral compass, no one to teach me right from wrong, you know. And I don't think I had an innermost self anymore. You know, on page 30 where it says we had to concede to our innermost self, and people, I have guys that sponsor me, they go, what's my innermost self? And I go, you know when you're like doing something wrong, like cheating on your wife or stealing from somebody, and that voice goes, that ain't right. That's your innermost self. But my innermost self was gone too. I didn't have one of those anymore. I no longer cared or knew. You know? So I was living in Civic Center Park, and I'd hide behind the mats in my hair, and I'd stare at my feet, and I couldn't look you in the eye, because if I looked you in the eye, you would know what a worthless piece of scum I was, you know? And I was hiding in this. We used to have, where's the young dude? Do you know that we used to have a thing called payphones? Can you believe that? Payphones. You could put money in it and call someone. And guess what? If they weren't home, the phone would just ring and ring and ring. And they were out, and they would be out eating, not taking pictures of their food, just eating their food. And if you wanted to see their cat sleeping, they had to invite you in the house and go, hey, they couldn't just send it to you. Somebody gets that, I hope, right? If you go online, ain't nothing but pictures of food and sleeping cats. Oh, eat the cat. Anyway, I was hiding in this phone booth in Civic Center Park, this like half silver dome thing. At nighttime, I was cool, man. It's cool to be, it's easy to be a wino at night. I mean, it gets a little cold, but that wine will keep you warm, and I'm sleeping in the doorway, but people couldn't see me. I just couldn't stand for people to see me. You know, and like I just hated. I just would remember just sitting there watching people in the daytime. Man, I just knew that they could see me. I just felt so exposed, and I would look at people and think, how do you do that? How do you get up and how do you have a job? How do you have a life that works? How do you talk to each other like that? You know, it was just foreign to me. So I was hiding in this phone booth, and in this phone booth. Like I said, I'd never heard of Alcoholics Anonymous. It had this sticker in there. It said, do you have a drinking problem? Call 1-800-ALCOHOLICS Anonymous, or something like that. So I called this number. And I can still hear this woman. I'm sure this woman had those, you know, the horn-rimmed glasses with the chain around them? And this is what she sounded like.
Alcoholics Anonymous, can I help you?
And I said, this is what my voice sounded like if I wasn't yelling at you.
Do you think you have a drinking problem, Daddy?
She said, do you think you can get to this meeting at Bush and Gough Street? I don't know if you know San Francisco. Civic Center Park is here, and here's Bush and Gough Street. Now, if you're an alcoholic and there's not a drink at the end of this trip, that's a long, 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 long way. Dude. But I got to that meeting. I shuffled on up, and I walked on up Gough Street. And I walked into 1982, I walked into my very first meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous. And the first thing that happened was, there was a big dude, 6 times bigger than any man in this room, came walking over, stopped what he was doing, ran over to me, made it his business, said, I love you, and hugged me. Now, I look like a chick that had been shooting speed for a year. You know, a size none? I look like a parking meter, right? And hepatitis A, just completely yellow, iodine skin from wine, and just like, dude, I look like death. And I said, I look like if the wind blew, I would break, but I said, don't ever hug me. You know? You know, like the dude in the back, the first guy that, you know, when you go to a meeting and you see the tough guy in the back, first thing you meet is his neck. Here's my neck. You know what that meant for me is, I'm very scared and I wish I could ask you for help and I wish you would love me, but I'm afraid and I don't know how to do that, so here's my neck. And I told him, don't ever hug me, man. Don't hug me. He goes, whatever. And he hugged me again. He like took the air out of me. And then this mom came. There are many like moms in this room. This mom came up to me. Now, I hadn't seen my mother in a long time. And unfortunately, and I left this out of my story, my mother had a hard time intervening with all the violence that was going on in my house. She was also controlled and afraid of my father. So I wasn't really getting that mom love. And nobody was putting their hands on me unless they were kicking me out of a doorway that I'd been sleeping in, or unless the police were patting me down and they were handcuffing me, were human beings touching me. So this woman came over to me in my first AA meeting. Her name's Peg, and she put her arms around me and she said, "You never have to feel like like you're feeling right now, and you never have to do what you're doing to yourself if you don't want to." And I shattered like a piece of glass. The dam just burst. I couldn't even imagine. I can still feel. I couldn't imagine. I'm wearing everything I owned, and I've probably had it on for almost a year. You know what I mean? And I wasn't painting the Sistine Chapel. Okay, I couldn't imagine that somebody would hug me, that would hold me, and I was like, I was horrified, and just all that damage just came out of me. It's hard to explain what I was feeling right then, you know. But I still know that woman to this day, by the way. And I'd like to tell you that I stayed sober from that moment on, and I didn't. I went back out, and I came to that meeting every day for about 2 weeks, and every time I'd walk in that meeting, that big guy would stop what he was doing, come running over, and I'd go, "Don't hug me," and he'd go, "Yeah," like that, and I'd go, "Don't hug me," and like 5, 6, 7 times he'd come in, and there was nothing I could do about it. If I wanted to be there, that was part of the deal. Okay, I'm going to go to the meeting. I got nowhere else to go. I could probably get a donut. You know, I can have a cup of coffee. I don't know what the hell's going on in there. I don't know. You know the old saying, I don't know what you have. I didn't want what you have because I didn't know what you had, but I knew I didn't want what I had anymore. And so part of the deal was I had to have that guy hug me, you know, which was horrifying to me, man. I would rather get in a fight with an entire sheriff's department than have that guy hug me. And so one day he didn't hug me. And he was like just over there, just kept talking. And I was like, hey, I liked it. I started liking it. I don't even care. Now when big guys hug me, man, I lift my leg. You know what I mean? Nuzzle, ask them where they work out. I have no problem being the gentle, tender, loving man that I was always meant to be. And we'll get to that. We'll get to how I got to that. So I stayed out there running around on the streets of San Francisco without Carl Malden for in the Tenderloin of San Francisco, doing crazy, incredible things. You know, we always say, you know, we cross that invisible line. Yeah, okay, I'll do that, but I will never do that. Well, maybe yeah. And then there's no boundaries. There's nothing I won't do to get to, you know. You get the point. You're getting it, right? You've been there. I was out of ideas, hopeless, not getting loaded anymore, spending my entire day just trying to get to zero the absence of pain and not doing it anymore. And in 1985, I checked myself into my first treatment center and got 90 days sober. Found my mother found me. A whole long story, but my mother had a heart attack and then lost her leg and just a bunch of stuff, crazy stuff. And then I started 8 years of I sponsor myself, no sponsor, no big book sobriety. You know that Do you want what I have? You know, like the vein sticking out of I was dying of fine. How you doing, Danny? Fine. How you doing? Fine. Fine. Right? You've heard about it. You've seen them. These are the people that want to give you what they have so bad. The ones that are like, please, keep it. You know? I mean, I was 8 years of untreated alcoholism, nutter, crazier than any newcomer in this room. Still very violent, good with my hands. I'm a boxer, mixed martial artist. One thing I always knew how to do, man, was knock a dude out. That's what I was good at. Lord knows I was in training all my life for a fight, you know? So I knew how to do that. The problem was I was bringing all of that here and not changing. So inevitably, I was going to drink again, wasn't I? Sure I was, because I hadn't conceded to my innermost self. I never really thought that, that whole 8 years, I never read the doctor's opinion. I had no idea what an alcoholic was. I didn't know I had an allergy of the body. I didn't know I had a brain that tells me that I can drink safely. I didn't know what any of that was. I thought I was just going through a phase. Too young. The beast working on me. Just the beast. In my lineage is, my sponsor's name is Earl H. His sponsor was the late, great Donald Madden. His sponsor was Norm Alpe. And his sponsor was Chuck C. And his sponsor was Bill W. Right? And somewhere along the line in my lineage, probably in the Donald Madden Earl days, we call the greater aspect of our disease, alcoholism, the beast. Great name. And the beast finally convinced me, if you're new, you have a head talking to you, don't you? You ever have anybody here just your head just talking to you? Sitting in a meeting, mopping up, right? Doing your commitment. And the beast, you know, when you stay in hotels and you turn the TV on, sometimes in some of them, the first thing that comes on is this thing that tries to make you watch porn. It goes, after hours. It does. It says it real sexy. And I realized one day when I heard that come on, the beast used to talk to me like that, like a sexy hooker. I'd be sitting in a meeting, right? Just sitting there trying to focus, trying to not get up and punch someone in the face or kill myself or run out of the room screaming, trying to pay attention. And the beast would go, hey, Danny, hi, how you doing? You know, we've heard this speaker about 5 or 6 times, and we don't need to hear him anymore. After hours, let's go to the liquor store, and we're just going to get a couple of Coronas. I know, take it easy. Coronas. You work hard. You deserve a Corona. We're just going to get a 6-pack. That's all. Go home. Safe. I love you. You know I love you. I care about you. And as soon as I give her a drink, guess what? She would change. Thank you. I woke the McCracken. The beast is up. Thanks. That was good. Now get a pen and paper because we're going to get busy, because we're really going to get busy now. And the beast would always talk to me, man. And I would sit back there, sit at the back of the room, use meetings. Like the only thing I did was go to meetings. I only did the one of the 4. Today I know there's 4 things to do. Go to meetings, have a sponsor, work the steps, and sponsor somebody. I was only going to meetings. Now, if you're only going to meetings, great. It's better than what you had. But dude, or chick, or girl, or bro, or sir, or whoever, if that's all you're doing, may I suggest there's a lot more. That I'm not in AA unless I'm practicing the principles and the ideas in that book. So I'd sit in the room and the beast would talk me into, finally. So on my 8th birthday, I went to a meeting, parked my Harley Davidson in the doorway, dared anyone to touch it, got up and told AA, you didn't work. You don't work. You're all a bunch of lip-flapping, phony, book-thumping, used language that I would never use at the podium today. Gave him the finger and walked out and stayed out for 15 years. And every single thing that could possibly, I showed them. And you know what I mean? I mean, they talk about, we pick up where we left off. Oh my God, ridiculous. In less than a year, I shattered both my heel bones from jumping from something while I was drunk because I didn't know it was that high. And 5150s, how many people here have been on a 5150? Come on, there you go, be part of. What is the 5150? It's an involuntary hold. You know? You've been on one? Well, but you know somebody that has, right? Some of my best friends have been on 5150s. It's an involuntary hold, a 72-hour hold because you've been a danger to yourself and others, right? It's no fun. And I'd been on plenty of those. And for that 15 years, so the first thing that happened really important in my life, so I was a musician, right? I still am a musician. I had this great band, and even though I was drinking, you know how we're so lucky to have people stay with, like, are there any Al-Anon here? Thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you so much. I mean, and if you're in AA and you think, I don't need to read to wives because I've never been a wife, boy, are you wrong. You read that chapter, let's call that chapter, to anyone that ever tried to love me. What it's like to try to care about me while I drink. The first Al-Anon literature. So we're so lucky to somehow in our, on page 82, I don't have a big book up here, but on page 82 it says the alcoholic is like a tornado roaring through the lives of others. Homes are broken. That's us. And for some reason, we seem to have a couple people that stay with us and believe in us. And there was this guy, this guitar player, this guy played with Zappa, amazing. There's some old people, and you guys remember Sir Douglas Quintet, and he was in that band, and She's About to Move. Okay, so anyway, this guy's a great guitar player. And for some reason, through all my insanity, believed in me. And years later, I asked him, how come you never gave up on me? You know what he said? I always knew there was a Danny in there. I love getting emotional in a room full of people with fluorescent lighting. Yeah. Pretty harsh lighting. Who looks good in fluorescent, So I was playing in this great band, man. Phenomenal bass player from Celine Dion. I'm not name dropping, just a great band, Texas blues band, like Stevie Ray Vaughan kind of stuff. We were going to be the next big thing. And if it hadn't been for two things, drugs and alcohol, you'd have heard of this band. Because me, Klonopin, and Southern Comfort showed up to this gig together. And we ruined this band. I killed this band, right? And right around that same time, I was dating this girl that was in AA. You were from the West Side. Anybody ever been to the Rodeo meeting over on the West Side? Right? And I was done with AA. I was never going to go to a meeting. And every once in a while, I run into somebody and go, hey, man, when are you going to come back to a meeting? Rah, 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 rah. AA don't work. And rah, rah. There's people that say terrible things about AA online. You can read about it, that say it don't work. Those are the people that have never worked the program and don't know how AA works, right? And I was one of those people. And I was dating this girl that had about 12, 13 years at the time. Her name was Vicky Smart. And she said I was dating her, and she would once in a while, she'd go, I'm going to a meeting. Want to go? And I'd, nah, rah, 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 not going. Rah, rah. And one day she said, okay, Danny, ultimatum time. You can live with me. You can sleep with me. I'll wash your clothes and cook for you if you go to one more meeting. And I'm not stupid. Okay, I'll go. And she takes me to Rodeo. Great place to go when you're miserable, right? 700 people all wearing Gucci and Dolce & Gabbana and Prada, and they all have veneered teeth, and they just look fabulous. Do you know what I mean? And there you are. You have a spotlight with a balloon that says, loser. You know what I mean? Miserable. It's just totally not my idea of a meeting to go to when you're new, right? Overwhelming, man. Hardest thing I've ever done in my life, two hardest things I've ever done in my life. Ask a girl to dance at the 7th grade dance and walk into a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous with greeters at the door. Same thing to me. How do you do that? How do you chit chat? You know those meetings where there's like only one way in and there's 6 people on either side and they're all wearing ties and they're already welcoming you before you even hit the sidewalk, and you're like, not tonight, man. Can't do it. They're going to ask me crap. There's going to be a quiz. How are you? I don't know. So I remember a couple of times I had to go to the meeting, but I couldn't do it. And there was those people, and I just went, it's like the stroll, So anyway, so I go to this meeting. I go to this meeting. Okay, I'm going to go to one more meeting. Right? It's in the mid-90s. And there's this guy talking. There's like 700, I'm not exaggerating, there's 700 people at this meeting. And it's just filled to the brim. And I'm sitting probably in relationship to the meeting about where this guy is in the chair, yes. on the aisle next to Vicky. I have to sit on the aisle so that I can run. I told her that if I need to run, right? And this guy Earl's talking. Never heard of Earl. Didn't know who he was. Never heard of him. And it was like him and I were the only ones in the room. I connected with that man. You know, that's the amazing thing about Alcoholics Anonymous. Our sponsors, for some reason, we can hear them. Our sponsors, if they're good members of Alcoholics Anonymous, they're probably not saying anything different from anyone else, but for some reason we hear them. And the important reason for you to stay sober is there's going to be a girl coming here in a couple of years that's only going to be able to hear you. It's not my sobriety. It's theirs. And I heard that man. And I said, will you sponsor me? And he did. And he has. And he never gave up on me. All that time. I didn't get sober again until, I'm 8 years sober. I didn't get sober again until 2008. For 15 years, I came in and out and in and out. And, you know, there are some of those people at the room that will go, you know, as soon as you walk in, how many days you got now, Danny? Well, page 91 of Working with Others says, see your man alone. When we do that to a newcomer, that's called division. That is not unity, making someone feel uncomfortable. My job as an AA member, if I seem passionate about this, it's because I am. My job is to go out farthest from the door, find the dude that's scared, find the guy sitting over there, walk up to him and go, how are you, bro? You okay? Sit down with him. Talk to him. Make him feel good. Boy, but a lot of people, when I was coming in and out, forgot about how hard it was to get sober. And it made it very uncomfortable for me to walk into the room. I did not feel welcome in a lot of meetings. But my sponsor would call me and say, there's a chair waiting for you. And he didn't tell me about AA. He showed me AA. He didn't say, go thank the speaker. He said, come on, let's go thank the speaker. Go get a commitment and put chairs away. He didn't say that. He said, come on, let's put chairs away. Let's. I can't, but we seem to be able to. First word of the steps, we. Right? So what happened? So I finally beaten into a state of reasonableness in 2007 at Christmas Day. I was beaten again by the police and put in a 5150, held down, strapped down in Glendale Adventist Hospital, and came out of it with a piece of paper on my chest that says, you have the right to refuse a lobotomy. That's good. You have the right to refuse electric shock treatment. I'm not ruling that one out. That's a yet for me. And now the woman, this is how it goes to show you the ego is, right? You know, there are some groups in AA that refer to the ego as His Majesty the Baby. It's an amazing term. I just think it encapsulates so much. There I am, wearing a gown, open in the back, catheter in me, right? Beaten to a pulp by the police. And this woman has me, and she's going to remove the catheter, and she thinks this is a great time to suggest AA to me. And she says, have you ever thought of going to AA, Danny? And here's me, right? I go to AA. I have the greatest sponsor in the world. His name's Earl. I swear to God, at that very moment, it was like on a TV show. They go, okay, go in, Earl. Earl walks through the door and goes, and I'm doing a great job, aren't I? True story. That man never, ever threw me away. Never. I totally had thrown myself away. I gave up on Danny. I didn't believe in Danny. And I found somebody that believed in me and wouldn't stop believing in me. And every once in a while, he would just reach into my heart, and he'd squeeze my heart, and he'd just reach in there and just crack me open just enough to let that light out, just to keep me going, and just to make me to make that word come into my brain that's so important to alcoholics. You know what that word is? Maybe. Maybe I can do this. Maybe I don't have to die. Maybe I can get my kid back. Maybe I can leave a footprint on this planet that means something. Maybe my life will matter and have made some importance to somebody's life. Maybe I can do this. Maybe. It's a big difference from never gonna. Nope, can't. So, February 18th, 2008, my last drink was an MGD. And my last puff of weed, and detoxed in AA. Picked a chair in the room, and shook against the wall, and people sat next to me so I wouldn't shake out of my chair. They had to almost take me to the hospital a couple times to call the ambulance because I convulsed so many times. And I started going to my home group, good old AA in Sherman Oaks, California, the greatest meeting of alcoholics, right? And there were great people there, man. It was a fantastic meeting. It was one of those meetings where you could easily get a resentment. And what I mean is, imagine if this side of the room was facing this way and this side of the room was facing that way. You're facing each other. It's a participation meeting, and you can't raise your hand. You have to be called on. What? You have to be called on. There's no applause here. There's no raising your hand. The leader chooses who. Oh, really? And the beast, looking for the differences. Oh, really? I'm not good enough once again. Beast, come on, Danny. Let's go. We don't need to be here after hours. Nope. Not going to leave this time. Not going to leave. Beast wanted me to leave. I started to stand up to leave to go to the liquor store. Walked around for the first time, walked over to my sponsor and said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. Tell me what to do. And he goes, see that guy over there? Tattoos? Go say hi to that guy. And in my brain, I thought, are you kidding me? Look, all he's missing is a neon sign that says, stay away from me. And you know what came out of my mouth? Yes, sir. It's amazing once being beaten into a state of reasonableness, what it'll do. You know what I mean? Your body will do things that your brain doesn't have any idea what it's doing. And we need a new GSR. What? I just took a 2-year commitment. What the heck? I'm putting my hand in my pocket next time they do elections, So, and I started doing that. So the foundation of my sobriety is built on contrary action. I am contrary action man. I do what I don't want to do, and I don't do what I would like to do. And the biggest contrary action for me is a non-action. The greatest advice, the best direction my sponsor has ever given me to this day is, just shut up, Danny. Just shut up. There are people doing 3 life sentences that wish they could have just paused when agitated. Right? And so this is how I joined AA. Now, here it is, 2008. I started going to AA in 82. I've been to some meetings. Never felt a part of. Every time they read the promises, I always thought in my brain, oh yeah, and a unicorn's going to walk in. Right? Really? No peace? Nah. Never. All that stuff. Not wish to shut the door on the path. Are you out of your mind? And I always sat in every AA meeting like, this is temporary relief, but I am never going to get this. I am never going to get this. What is this? Recovery from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. It's not going to happen to me. Never a part of. I have never felt a part of this group until this one meeting. You know when you go to a participation meeting and there's that one person that no one's supposed to call on? And they tell the person, hey, we lead the meeting, but look, see that guy over there? Don't call on that guy. He'll go on for 22 minutes. And then sometimes people don't know better. They didn't get the memo and they call on him. And when they do, the whole room goes, and that's called, by the way, not acting better than you feel. Right? We're not supposed to show those emotions like, oh, right? So I became that guy. Somehow I became the guy in the room, don't call on him. I was known as the angry guy that Earl sponsors. Don't call on that guy. He's an exposed nerve. Just leave him alone. And I was at my meeting, never felt a part of, and I was just sitting there I could not hide how uncomfortable I was. I just was sitting there just thinking, oh man, I don't want to drink tonight. I don't want to drink tonight. I hope I can do this. I hope I can do this. And I just wanted to ask you, my whole question was, am I going to be all right? 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 Don't lie to me. And Earl would just say, I don't know if you're going to be all right, but you're all right now. Okay, I'm all right right now. Okay, I'm all right. Like Al Sines would say. Al Sines, right? Al Sines from the West. Just got to get between here. Right here, right now. All I need to be is right here, right now. Because that's what alcohol robbed me of. Alcohol and drugs robbed me of now. I never had now. And Alcoholics Anonymous has given me a now. The only place that I can love you is right here, right now. The only way that I can be your friend or be kind to you is right now. I can't be kind to you tomorrow. There isn't tomorrow. There's now. And the 12 steps and my sponsor gave me now. Right? And this is when I joined AA. The leader made a mistake and said, would you like to share? Pointed to me. And the whole room went, And I turned to Earl and I go, can I say whatever I want to say? And he goes, go ahead. And I go, didn't have the respect for the podium yet. And I said, from my seat, you're all a bunch of liars, and you're all a bunch of phonies, and every one of you, I don't care if you smile or not, I know if I was on fire, not one of you in here would even pee on me. And this woman, 2 rows behind me, she goes, I'd pee on you, Danny. And the whole room broke up laughing, and you know who else laughed? I laughed. I laughed, and I saw myself laughing, and at that very moment, that big chip fell off my shoulder for the first time in my life, man. For the first time, I really needed to let go. When I got here, I came here with a bad attitude, an attitude of belligerent denial and knees. And I needed to let go, because you can't accept love or give love with a fist. You have to open that hand. I needed to let go. And I saw myself laughing, and I remember like it was yesterday. I'm in AA. I'm in AA now. I want to be in AA. Okay. It was like the first time I just found it. Like the first time I tasted chocolate ice cream. Like, this is amazing. This is amazing. This is AA. Yeah, AA. You know? Okay, what do I do? Okay, Earl, what do you think I should do? Now, Earl isn't a dictator, right? But I have a sponsor translator. And now my biggest fear was I hated the greeters. Boy, just people that just plastic smiling people. And Earl goes, that greeting commitment looks like a good idea. The translator goes, get that commitment or die. So now I'm a greeter at doing the thing that I fear the most, right? Greeting. I'm standing there acting better than I feel, and you walk into my home group, and I would think to myself, boy, I hope you don't share tonight. How you doing? How you doing? I wouldn't mind if you died. Hey, what's up? Yeah. Swear to God, every one of them. But you couldn't tell. As I stood there, and if people laughed, I'd laugh, and just learned how to chit-chat without a margarita in my hand. Learn how to chit-chat. Learn how to care about your day. How was your day? Really? How are your kids? Great. Learn how to do it until now I care. How are your kids? I know my friend's kid's name. So that began the sobriety for me, and so 9 months, so I had no belief in a power greater than myself. I never got past the first step, ever, and what I know about the first step is that I did 99% of the first step I did out there before I ever came in AA. All that was left for me was to admit I had been powerless and unmanageable all my life. I just had to admit in a room with you guys, yes, I'm a pickle. I am a pickle, will never be a cucumber again. Here I am, pickle boy. I'm one of you, accept me. Yes, I like getting the nods from you. I feel like I'm doing good if you nod. So the only thing that I believe in, people would talk about God, man, and I knew, if there's a God, he doesn't like me very much, okay? I was the guy that would stand up in a room when I was younger, and if you talked about God, it would tell you to shut up and sit down. There's no God here. There isn't a God. And if you tried to hold my hand, if you weren't a girl at the Lord's Prayer, it wasn't good, okay? So I had a problem. I had severe social problems and big problems with spiritual ideas and anything with God in it, Knew nothing about it. So the only thing I believed in is that Earl believed. I believed that Earl believed. I remember one day I was sitting there, you ever sit next to your sponsor and you kind of because we all love our sponsor. I mean, come on, Everybody here, when you leave, if you're not here with your sponsor tonight, as soon as you leave here, call your sponsor and just say, I love you, and then hang up. Let them figure it out. I love you. Who has the best sponsor in the world? Damn right. If you're not raising your hand, get another sponsor. Sorry, I have the best sponsor in the world. I remember sitting next to my sponsor one day, and I'm looking at him in the corner of my eye. And I know this man. He's the only one in the room that's not lying. I know this guy. We've had intimate conversations. From the way he's talked to me, he has felt like I felt. He has done the things that I have done. Yet he believes. Okay, I believe he believes. That's all I needed. And if you study the big book, which is our textbook, the basic text, chapter 2, there is a solution, talks about 2 powers. There is one solution. It says there is a solution. A, singular, one solution. Not his solution, not your solution, not my idea of a solution. A solution, the solution. But it talks about 2 powers. The first power that most of us ever had was this room, right? The fellowship, right? You plus me is a power greater than myself. That was my first power, the power of AA. I believed that Earl believed. And then after I started working the steps and started become willing to believe, that some power greater than me. And as I went through the process, AA didn't teach me how to be spiritual. AA doesn't teach it. This doesn't teach me how to be spiritual. I was spiritual when I landed on the planet, right? I was this little tiny little ball of light. But I adopted there's that word again, adopted. I adopted an ego, a self. I started being filled with fear. AA gives me a process, a simple plan of action that teaches me how to destroy self and let me be the spiritual man that I was always meant to be. A loving, kind, sweet person who I've always been at war with, who I've always been in conflict with. Step one, what's the problem? Lack of power is my dilemma. I may be good at a lot of things, but when it comes to drinking, boy, am I powerless. So what's the solution? That a power greater than myself can restore me to sanity, soundness of mind, relieve me of the great obsession, let me walk the earth free, no longer enslaved by the beast. The beast ain't telling me what to do anymore, right? Step 3 says, so I'm going to make a decision to turn my will and my life over to the God I may or may not understand. If anybody tells you they understand God, take a couple steps away slowly and then run. Okay. So that step just says, okay, I'm making a decision to turn to my will in my life. Most of the guys that I sponsor ask me, what is my will in my life? What does that mean, my will in my life? Can you tell me? What does it mean?
My way.
My will in my life. I love the newcomer. My way. I did it my way. She turned into Robert Goulet all of a sudden. Was that his song? No? Sinatra. Thank you. Blue Eyes. Thanks, brother. Just making sure we're listening still. So, what is my will? What is my life? My will is my thoughts. My life is my actions. So this is how I turn my will over to God every day. When my brain starts thinking something crappy. Here's an example. I see a good-looking dude. I'm going to use you because you're a good-looking dude. And let's say your chick is with you and she's fine. And I think I should have her. Immediately, the first thing I'll do is start ripping you apart. What is he doing with her? He doesn't deserve her. Look at him. Blah, blah, blah. I can catch myself and make the choice and decide and start finding things that I like about you. He probably deserves her. He must be a good dude. I have just turned my thoughts over. God would want me to think good about him and you and you and you because we're brothers and sisters. The first 2 words of the Lord's Prayer says that you are my brother and you are my sister, right? Our Father. So that's how I turn my thinking. When my thinking starts going, because jealousy is a big problem with me and envy, right? So when I start thinking down that road, that's just an example. When I start thinking like that, I'll automatically, you know when they say pray for someone? We've all heard that, right? People that you resent, pray for them. I used to think, okay, please, God, let them get hit by a FedEx truck. No, it's not what we mean, Danny. So, please, I hope you win the lottery. I hope you get everything that I want in life and more. That's how I turn my will over. And my life is my actions. Let me do what I need to do in a godly way. As I get on my knees and do my 3rd step in the morning, and I do my 11th step, and then I try to do what God would want me to do today, like drive to Ridgecrest and stand up at a podium in a room with bears and hats and talk to you. This is what God wants me to do today, right? And I know the difference and what is the difference between my will and God's will? Well, if I've turned my will over to God, hopefully there's no difference. It's the same, okay? So now I got to embark upon a journey. A planet. No, we just talked about, I know I jump around. Franklin W. You guys ever heard of Franklin W. from Olive Branch, Mississippi? He was the first circuit speaker in AA. He once went to Bill W. and he said, Bill, what is the essence of Alcoholics Anonymous? And he said, I can sum that up in 6 words, and you guys know it. Tell me. Trust God, clean house, and help others. So that we just talked about trust God. Now it's time to clean house, right? Now I got to clean house. Now I got to get rid of all this crap that Danny's been carrying around. Why do I got to do a 4 step? Because I want to be free. I want to be free. I don't want to live at the mercy of fools anymore. I don't want you to own me, right? If you know anything about physics, we were talking about Joe and Charlie. They talk about it so good there. If you've never visited Joe and Charlie, please listen to The Big Book Comes Alive by Joe and Charlie. It's amazing, right? And they talk about it too, that there's no such thing as a vacuum in life. Unless you're in space, there's no such thing as something empty. And the only way that I can fill my jar with love, kindness, and the third side of the triangle is Unity is the body. I got to bring it to the meeting, right? Recovery is of the mind. I got to work the 12 steps. The only way I'm going to recover is go through this process. So I got to get rid of this hate and get rid of this poison and find out why it is I act this way. What is it? Remember when Chuck C. used to he used to draw that thing that would show the universe and me. And what is that space in between me and the universe? It's fear. Why is that fear there? That's what the 4 steps all about. Finding out why do I do the things that I do. Learning how to be forgiving, you know. So I did a 4-step, you know, and I've done it. And if you really want to really learn AA, teach AA, you know, that's the best way, sponsor. So did the 4-step, learned how to forgive my father, forgave my father. I mean, I really only have 3 choices when it comes down to it. I can either make amends to you, forgive you, or stay sick. Those are the 3 choices, right? I remember the first time somebody told me about that. They go, okay, you can either make amends, stay sick, or what do you think the third one is? The concept of forgiveness had never even entered my mind. Forgive? What? What are you talking about? I've planned his death for 20 years. Are you kidding me? And forgiveness, yeah. I've been wearing my watch. Thank you. I also noticed when you came walking up here, the time was getting, I picked up on that. I know I don't look that smart, but I am. Don't let them tattoos fool you. Okay, so the 5th step is where I really, really, really reinforced that first side of the triangle. That's where I really hooked it up, right? When I shared with my sponsor and invited God in and talked to somebody else. And if you have a really great sponsor, when you're saying some of those terrible things, they're going to share with you. And so, you know, 6 and 7 is when I asked God to please remove this stuff. And 8 and 9, I went and made those amends. And 10 is, well, we don't really have time to, he just given me the hook. So if you want to learn more, get a sponsor and read the book, right? You know what's funny is I hear people talk about 10, 11, and 12 being the maintenance steps. How many people have heard that? Well, if you know anything about construction or equipment, to maintain something means to keep it the same. Nothing stays the same. Back to physics. Everything is either dying or growing. I don't want to maintain. I want to keep growing. That's what I want to do. Those ain't maintenance steps for me. Those are me still going. Everything that I try to do in my life is trying to keep me moving in a forward direction towards God. What is God to me today? Love. God is love. The most powerful, you know, I mean, I studied some amazing martial arts for years. And the most incredible strong force that I know, I'm a union electrician. I know all about power. But the strongest force that I know is kindness. Being gentle. As a man, being loving. What could you possibly say better about somebody than he is a kind man? Am I good at it? No. Am I better than I used to be? I think so. The man that came to Alcoholics Anonymous is not standing in front of you. I don't think the same. I don't look the same. I don't feel the same. I am not him because of Alcoholics Anonymous. Because of my sponsor, and because of the late, great Donald Madden who gave it to my sponsor. And I'll close with one of my favorite stories about my sponsor, okay? When I was about 9 months sober, I swiped my ATM card at the bank and it said, please contact Financial Center. That's an express lane to the 9th step. That's called a levy. They took the IRS. I never paid my taxes. $70,000, less than $14,000 now. Thank you. Thank you very much. Go AA, you know. And I yelled at. I called my sponsor. Man, I was punching the wheel of my truck so hard. I don't know how the airbag didn't deploy. And he said, "Just go to the meeting." And I didn't but him. I said, "Yes, sir." Went to the meeting, stood there with those people, those stupid people. Wasn't feeling the miracle yet, right? I was 9 months sober, wasn't feeling the gift. You know, everything's a miracle when you're new. Table's a miracle, bandana's a miracle, you know, barbecue's a miracle, miracle, miracle. Miracle, you're a miracle, right? And I just wasn't feeling it, you know, and I'm standing up there. So right about during that week, we had like 17 days of triple-digit heat in the valley. I was living in Sherman Oaks, right? And I was working on the W Hotel in Hollywood, and I wasn't feeling the gift. And I'm sitting in my apartment, right? And it was 1,000,000 degrees. I'm uncomfortable, and I'm trying to mentally prepare myself to go to that dumb meeting with those stupid people and greet those, ugh. And the phone rings. It's my sponsor. Now, I don't care if you're doing brain surgery. Your sponsor calls, you put a towel on the head, and you answer the phone. It's your sponsor. He says, meet me at the corner of Reseda and Ventura. Yes, sir. Like, remember in Forrest Gump when he was on the shrimp boat and they said, your mama's sick? Right? Just go. That's your sponsor. That's the man that never gave up on me. That's the man that stood in line for 7 hours at the county jail to see me for 4 minutes. That's the man that drove across California to visit me in prison. That's the man that talked to me on the phone all night long. I knew it was going to happen. Whenever I'm tired, man, I get real emotional. That's the man that did give up on me and save my life, right? So when he says, come and meet me, you go meet him. And when he says, when you get this thing, you go give this thing, or else you've been a complete waste of time. So I go see my sponsor at the corner of Reseda and Ventura, and I park my truck that's got the whiskey wrinkles all over it way in the corner of the parking lot so no one can see it. And I walk over to my sponsor, and he's holding this envelope, right? He's holding this envelope. And he goes, here, this is for you. And I go, what's that? And he goes, just open it and find out, you know? So I open it up. It's a big stack of money in there. I'm like, what? You know, I don't know about you, man. Big ego, tiny self-esteem. Low self-esteem was a goal for me when I got sober, right? You give me a toy and I don't deserve it. You know what I mean? And it's got a piece of paper wrapped around it. It says, this is an anonymous gift. Keep it or pass it on. Dude, what's this? He says, you know all those people you hate at your Monday night meeting that you think wouldn't pee on you? They care about you, Danny. They found out that you couldn't pay your rent, you couldn't make your truck payment, and they love you, and they don't want you to drink. So they all got together, and they got this money, and they gave it to you. And I started getting emotional, you know, in a parking lot with a full-grown man in broad daylight. So I gave him a hug and ran away, and he said the most important thing that a human being's ever said to me in my life. He yelled across the parking lot. He said, Danny, you're part of something now. And that busted the dam wide open, man. I got in my car, started crying, started driving home. Couldn't drive home, man. I had to stop at the red light for 5 minutes and have like an emotional breakdown. And this woman saying, honey, you know, the light's green. And I'm like, I'm part of something, you know. And I'm like, get home and close the apartment door. And I'm sitting there, man, just looking at this piece of paper that represented to me that I am part of something, that I belong to something, that I can do this, that I can live, that I can matter, and that people care about me, and that people love me. And I love you too, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you so much. All right.